Adobe Max, big event for creatives, for you guys. How many years have you been doing it here in LA?
Well, we have been doing it for, I think, almost a decade now, John.
Long time, 15,000 people, 1 million going to stream it. I want to talk about the announcements that you've got here, but first I want to ask you about guidance. A lot of people like it. For example, digital experience subscription bookings, you say, up 20% plus. Some people were worried about that a month and a half ago after earnings. Put that into context, what you were explaining about bookings when you were talking about the quarter versus the guide you gave yesterday.
Well, first, John, thank you so much for being here. It means a lot to us. And as it relates to what we talked about at the financial analyst meeting yesterday, first, we continue to reiterate that our macro trends are really driving growth across all of our growth initiatives, unleashing creativity, accelerating document productivity, and powering digital businesses. Specifically, as it relates to the digital experience business, we introduced, we think, a revolutionary new product called the Adobe Experience Platform. Every business needs to become a digital business, so we continue to think that bookings in that area will continue to do exceedingly well.
Okay. Take me 30,000-foot view. Where does the creative part of the business, where do these creatives fit into the entire Adobe engine? Because you built out marketing, now you're building out experience. Tell investors strategically how this fits with everything else.
Well, I think at our core still, we are a content company. And, you know, we just think that content is fueling the digital economy. And on the creative side specifically, everybody has a story to tell. And I think the theme of the conference this year is creativity for all. Whether you're a K-12 student or the largest enterprise in the world, you need to create content. And you need to create content across every digital device, new media types that are emerging. And so that business just continues to fuel the incredible growth that we've seen as a company.
A lot of companies are using content for engagement now. It's like it's the go-to thing. Apple's got their streaming thing going. Of course, Amazon's been doing it for a long time. Netflix, Disney, etc. Google's in the business. That's all stuff that Adobe in some way touches. What does that say about engagement and the role that you play in what all of these massive companies are trying to get?
Well, at the end of the day, when you are consuming any piece of content on any screen, we want to play a role in making that happen. So whether it's in the car that you're driving, whether it's in the airport, when you go in and check into a terminal, certainly all the video that you're consuming on the internet, retail stores, in Las Vegas, when you look at what's happening with digital displays, everything is a piece of content which is digital. It needs to be personalized. It needs to be engaged. And, you know, Adobe is playing a massive role in making sure that we help create that content, manage that content, and deliver that content, John.
You told analysts here yesterday not to expect big M&A in 2020. Given the guide you gave, I mean, otherwise, based on the quarter, I might have thought, oh, well, maybe they have to digest some of this experience stuff, and that's why. But it looks like you're expecting to digest it just fine. Why no big M&A in 2020?
Well, you know, you've followed us for a long time, and you know we're very thoughtful about how we do M&A. We try and make sure that it's great technology, that we can really accelerate that business. We did 2 large deals, Magento and Marketo, the Magento commerce business, where we now enable people to address the last mile. That's doing exceedingly well. Marketo, to help companies with their customer orchestration, is also doing well. And so we think that we have a really good portfolio of products. On the creative side, we bought a company called Algorithmic. We think immersive media. We announced a great product called Aero yesterday. So, you know, we feel really good about our portfolio, John, and it's all about execution at this point.
I want to ask you about tablets, because your chief product officer, Scott Belsky, saw him at the Microsoft event a few weeks ago with the Surface Pro X and Adobe running Photoshop and some other things on that. And then you're announcing Photoshop for iPad here. Tablets have been around for such a long time. There was this sort of extraordinary promise that arguably on the unit side they haven't lived up to. But now at this point, I feel like you guys are leaning hard into them. Why now? What's different about that market at this point versus 5 years ago?
A couple of things I think have happened there, John. The first is this desire by Adobe to help people wherever inspiration strikes, to being able to do whatever content creation that they need to do. Tablets have become incredibly more powerful. They're far more intuitive in some cases. When we introduced a product called Fresco.
Is it a churn reducer? Because you've got these people who are subscribing. Does it add that much value to be able to do that on the go that it's worth it for you there?
It's both an engagement or a churn reducer, to use your terminology, but it's also, without a doubt, there are a number of people for whom the tablet will be the only computing device that they have. And the fact that we now have Photoshop in all of its glory with the file format available, that was a tremendous engineering feat. We showed Illustrator for the iPad as well yesterday. And so, both in terms of multiple devices being used in the content creation process, but even more taking advantage of the benefits of some of these devices. You can take a quick picture, and when you take a picture with a tablet device, you can immediately start to edit it. We announced Photoshop Camera. So I think we're really just rethinking the role of mobile and tablet devices in the creation process.
I want to ask you also about the macro a bit. The markets are at or near all-time highs. The VIX is low, and yet we're talking so much about uncertainty and waiting for either the next tweet or how trade tiffs and trade wars are going to go. How are you feeling in terms of the certainty to run your business based on some of those macro factors that you have little control over?
You're right that, anything as it relates to Fed actions or, trade issues are, I think, dominating the narrative right now in terms of, the conversation. But when we take a step back and think about what's happening fundamentally with businesses, individuals are investing in themselves with skills as far as it relates to creative. Documents and accelerating document productivity and automating inefficient paper-based processes continues to be important. And every enterprise realizes they have to be a digital business and engage. So I think the macro trends are in our favor. And I hope we don't talk ourselves into, a slowdown globally.
You're seeing your customers continue to be confident enough to invest in efficiency and growth?
We are seeing strength continue to be the case at least in the U.S. market and all the other major global markets in which we participate, John.
Shantanu Narayen, CEO of Adobe, here at Adobe Max. Thanks for being with us.